Okay, so okay, hey everybody. So we're gonna go ahead and start the workshop tonight, which is super exciting. It is Fear, Burnout, and Stress, the dirty words of being awesome. Thank you so much for everybody joining on Instagrams and on Zoom and on by the website and all of that. I'm super excited to bring you into this world of nervous system regulation and really coming back to nervous system neutral. Okay, so the first thing to do is to go to nervoussystemneutral.com, or we're just going to go ahead and start the slideshow if you're on Zoom. All right. So there was a post on Spark Practice on Nervous System Neutral to have a QR code just to be able to go directly. So that's pretty cool. And there we go. Question for Zoom. Can you see the slideshow? Can somebody tell me if you can see the slideshow?
Yes, can see it.
Okay, cool, thanks. Great, now you can't. Now you can again. Just tell me yes or no.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right, so if you're following along on Instagram, I am going to tell you about this, and then when you sign up on the website, Nervous System Neutral, for the materials for tonight, you're going to be able to get the download of the slideshow after the session. And I am recording the session, so we should be able to have a replay. So if everything goes well, it's fine. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen tonight. We're going to do 4 different things. First of all, nice to meet you. Second of all, the stress profile quiz. So you have your own personal stress profile. The third is talking about self-regulation and how self-regulation is sexy. And then a couple next steps for you. So first of all, nice to meet you. A little bit about me. I am Sarah Niblack, the head nerd of Spark Practice and the founder of Nervous System Neutral. I'm a professional violist in Paris, so I'm a professional classical musician. I am a former Division I scholarship rower and multiple national finalist. I am the second person and first woman in the history of my school to go to their top conservatory on a sports scholarship. And I am the first person from my region to qualify for 3 events at nationals in the same year. I've learned to play the viola 3 times. The first time after a 5-year break to do other things after grad school. And then a couple of years ago, I was attacked on the street and somebody broke my hand. So I've had to learn really how to work with my system and maximize learning, and also how to be nice to myself to be able to be the badass that I would like to be. So with that, I became obsessed with neuroscience and how to heal and all of that. And I was introduced to mindfulness by one of my former viola teachers, Laurent Vernet, who's no longer with us, but he was really awesome. So everything that I do is informed by these 4 zones of neuroscience, elite music, elite sports, and mindfulness. My superpower is finding flexible, transformative tools from really complex systems that really try to look at the whole person and bring all of that together so that it's stuff that's really useful and also stuff that's really easy to engage with. I also really love cheesy jokes and tough questions. So the cheesier the jokes and the tougher the questions, I welcome them with open arms. Okay, so here is the who are you part. This is quiz time. You can just type in on a computer nervoussystemneutral.com, so nervoussystemneutral.com, or maybe you saw a post that has one of the QR codes, you can go ahead and just pop that up and pull up, go ahead and fill out your information, and then it'll pull up the quiz for your personal stress profile. And if you don't have that, we're going to go through it together anyway. So you walk out tonight with a really good idea of what your personal stress profile is and kind of what self-regulation is, and a couple tools that you can implement today to be able to put all of that together. Okay, so go ahead and pull up the quiz. Again, go to nervoussystemneutral.com, and on the page, it'll just have a little form that you can fill out. And we can look at the answers together later to see kind of what the trends are of the people attending. And over time, it'll be really interesting to know kind of what people's stuff is about. So we're going to go through the quiz together. So if you don't have a laptop or a phone in front of you, we can still do the quiz and you still walk out with your personal profile. So the first question is, how do you usually experience fear and stress symptoms? Now, the two major categories for this are in your body or mental symptoms. So examples of in your body are shaking, shaky legs, upset tummy, stuff like that. Typical symptoms of mental duress are going to be like catastrophizing, coming up with scenarios of all the possible horrible things that could happen. Let's see. I'm wondering if on, oops. Oh, there we go. There, I was wondering why that wasn't happening. Okay. Hi everybody on Instagram and Instagram. Okay, so the first question is, how do you usually experience your stress and fear symptoms? So either in your body or in your mind. The second question is, what's your most typical base fear reaction? Yes, Stefan, thank you. I can see that you're here. That's awesome. Thanks. And so these are going to be our classical fear reactions, not responses, reactions of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So let's go through what each one is so that we can get an idea of how we respond to these things. So fight is going to be getting a little bit of aggressive, feeling our tone of voice kind of harden. Maybe if we're a musician, maybe the sound gets really hard all of a sudden. Flight, a lot of this is going to be, you know, from an ideation point of view, it's going to be, oh my gosh, I just want this to be over with. I just have to get out of here. Wanting things to end or be done and trying to rush through to move on to the next thing or just get out of the situation. If we're a musician, because you know Spark Practice does a lot with teaching, practicing, and teaching excellence on stage. So if we're a musician, flight can show up in rushing, and ideation of, oh my gosh, I just have to get off stage. This needs to be over. I just want to get out of here. Freeze. It's going to be the kind of thing where it's like you just freeze up. Either you have a memory slip, you don't really know how to kind of move forward in a conversation. The kind of thing where you just sort of, everything seizes up. Even physically, it could just be things just block. Or you can have a lot of these different things that are just kind of, you know, memory slips, you know, you can't find information, you can't find words, stuff like that. A lot of that is a freeze response. And then the last one of your typical base fear reaction is going to be fawn. And that is the kind of thing that isn't necessarily something that we talk about a lot, but it's the fear reaction that's going to be like, oh, I want to make everything okay. Do you have everything you need? Oh my gosh, you're so pretty. These kinds of things. And it's a totally legit fear reaction. Okay. So if you're a musician, sometimes that'll come out as losing our interior pulse, or thinking, oh my gosh, somebody in the audience coughed. Do they like me? Those kinds of things. And just sort of losing that interior integrity, right? So for the people who are joining, thank you so much for being here. You can go to nervoussystemneutral.com and fill out the little form to get the materials for tonight, which has your personal fear and stress profile quiz on it. And so we're just going through it so that we have an idea so we can talk about it later for the rest of the workshop. Okay, so the third question is, do you naturally express ask culture or guess culture? Now, if this is new to you, and some of this stuff might be new to you, and that's totally fine, all we're doing is we're getting information to be able to best equip ourselves so that when we're looking for our stress antidote, we know what we're working with, okay? So ask culture versus guess culture is the kind of thing where when you need something, do you come from a culture where it's supposed to be just that people sort of look out and anticipate what you might be able to, what you might need and then offer? Or do you come, and which would be a guess culture thing, sorry. Guess culture is when you're just sort of guessing what other people need and want and trying to anticipate as best you can. And ask culture is the kind of culture that's a little bit more direct. Maybe that is the kind of thing where it's like, oh, I need to go to the airport. I'm going to ask this person to drive me. So the airport example is perfect because in guest culture, it might be, oh, I'm going to the airport. I don't know how I'm going to get there. Somebody might say, oh, do you need me to drive you? And that would be a guest culture interaction. Whereas an ask culture interaction would be, oh, I needed to go to the airport. Would you be willing to drive me? So you can see how these things are very different. And you can probably think of an example where you've been surprised if somebody comes from a different culture. Okay, so then the next question is, do you know your attachment style? So you can see these things are pretty direct as questions, but they really help us get a lot of information about who we are and what goes into our responses when we're under stress or when we're afraid. And they're going to be the things from which we can really work and find the solutions, find our personal antidote, so that then we can find that nervous system neutral and be able to do all the things that we want to do from a space of wholehearted openness and creativity. Okay, so just to review, how do you usually experience stress and fear symptoms? So either in your body or in your mind. What's your typical base fear reaction? Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Do you naturally express ask culture or guess culture? And then do you know your attachment style? So attachment styles are a totally interesting theory about how we tend to approach other people. And there are 4 main categories. The first one is anxious. So this is going to be the person that if they're not sure that everything is fine, or there's something that was a little bit confusing in an interaction or in a relationship, they're going to want to get in there and be reassured and make sure that everything's okay and be really active and kind of clingy, kind of sticky, completely anxious about it. Then there's avoidant, and this is kind of typically a ghosting situation. And these are actually, I do have slides about these. Okay. Sorry. This is sort of a ghosting situation. This is going to be the thing where the person just doesn't want to talk about it. Make it go away. Just ignore it and it'll be over. That kind of thing. Secure is a balance of all of these different things, saying, okay, sometimes I'm hurt and I know how to repair. And sometimes everything is fine and I kind of take things as they come and they don't affect my personal stability or worth. Okay. And the last one is disorganized. And from everything that I've read, this usually comes from, so disorganized means a mix of anxious and avoidant. And surprise, you don't really ever know what you're going to get when you have disorganized attachment. because it's something that tends to come out of traumatic childhoods and events and stuff like that. So that then you may not know exactly kind of what your home base is, and it's usually kind of a surprise. All right, so the next question is, how safe did you feel as a child? 1 is not safe, 5 is very safe. Next question, do you have a high pressure work life? 1 is rarely high pressure, 5 is high pressure all the time. The next question is, do you have a high pressure home life? 1 is rarely, it's pretty chill. 5 is high pressure all the time. You know, another way to phrase this question is, do you tend to have a lot going on all the time? Okay, then how safe do you feel at work? 1, not safe. 5, very safe. And this could be to express yourself, to have your ideas come out, that if you have an issue, you feel safe to be able to talk about it and address it. And then how safe do you feel at home? And this is going to be, you know, same thing. 1, not safe. It might be an abusive situation. It might be something where you're on eggshells all the time. Or 5 is very safe. You are absolutely yourself, and that's totally wonderful and fine. So go ahead and fill out your personal stress profile. We'll just do it super quick if you've, and sometimes you can have a little bit of a mix of a lot of these different things, right? And that's totally fine. The only thing we're doing here is gathering information. This is the only interesting thing of this. Like, there's zero judgment. We're kicking judgment out of the window. We are just interested in information, because it's from that information that we're going to be able to actually implement tools to be able to do something about it. Okay, great. So you'll see that there are a couple different things. Oh my gosh, I'm getting so many captures. Wonderful. Okay, great. So you're going to get an email with your answers when you fill it out, so that then you can have this to stick with it and know a little bit more about yourself. Okay, so for those who are on Zoom, we're going to go back to the PowerPoint. For those of you on Instagram, again, these materials will be available. I'll send a follow-up, especially if you fill out the form for your stress profile, so that then I can actually get this information to you. So go ahead and fill that out, and then I can get you the slideshow that goes with tonight's presentation. All right, so let's move on. Now we're talking about self-regulation basics. Self-regulation is really just about being able to work with sort of our emotional environment in relation to our nervous system to be able to stabilize it, and ideally come back to a sense of neutrality and a sense of power to be able to then activate to whatever level that we want. But if we don't have this ability to come back to what I call nervous system neutral, and just this sort of like base, everything's okay, I'm not stressed out, I'm not worked up, it's just kind of my homeostasis level. If we don't have that, then we have a really hard time resting. Then we have a really hard time engaging authentically with other people. Then we have a really hard time, you know, for musicians, or we're on stage, or, you know, dates or boardrooms or whatever kind of stressful situations we might be in. We have a really hard time showing up and performing at our best. Okay, so you'll see on the slideshow that this is where we talk about 10 things I hate about you. And I love this because there's a little conversation that happens in that movie where one of the characters is like, I know you can be overwhelmed and you can be underwhelmed, but can you just be whelmed? And the other girl's like, I think you can in Europe. And so what we're aiming for is Europe. What we're aiming for is just whelmed. All right, not overwhelmed, not underwhelmed, just overwhelmed. That is nervous system neutral. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the brain and what happens in the brain and all this cool stuff. All right, you'll see in the slideshow that there are emojis of lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my, right? Because as evolved as we are, we're actually not that evolved. And so anytime we feel like we're in, or we perceive danger, or we perceive stress, we go back to this part of our brain that we lose the capacity of, intelligent thought and being able to reflect in a lot of different, high functioning ways. And we go back to this really sort of base level of lions and tigers and bears, oh my. However, we tend very rarely to be in situations where it's actually life or death. And so we need to have some tools to be able to engage with ourselves in a way that is reassuring to ourselves, and that we can say, actually, you know what? I am safe. I do want to be here. And let's go and get ourselves into a condition where we can actually create. Okay, so now on the slideshow, you'll see brain versus brain. In music practice, once we talk about the sort of basic brain versus brain, then we go into a different level. But the first one, which is really important, which is that we can't criticize and create at the same time. What this means on the first level is that anytime we put our assessment of our character in question, we're unable to show up authentically and move forward as our full authentic selves, right? So that means that we need to start to adopt this idea that the absolute value of us as people, the absolute value is awesome and it doesn't change. Your absolute value as a person is awesome and it cannot change. You are amazing and wonderful as you are. And from there, when we start to cultivate that sort of mindset, then we can actually start to do the work to equip ourselves, and our personal stress profile is just information and it doesn't have to be scary. Okay. So stress reactions, like all the things we just talked about on that personal stress profile quiz, they can feel really scary. Like, oh my gosh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. Oh my God, it's like having a panic attack, whatever. It's okay. It's really going to be okay. Stress reactions from all these different areas are just signals. They can be signals that there's an actual danger. They can be signals that something's important. Like in sports, we need to start learning the difference between good pain and bad pain. Like in sports, there's like, is it a good hurt, or did you actually like wreck something in your body? So those are kinds of things that we need to be thinking about, and then we can develop knowing the difference emotionally as well, and have tools to be able to actually repair and to say like, oh no, this is a situation that's actually just not okay and crosses my boundaries and stuff like that. I'm going to disengage, right? But all of these stress reactions, whatever our profile is, they're just signals, and they're usually signals. If it's the kind of stress that's acceptable, it's usually just a signal that something is important to us. Okay. And if something is important to us, we tend to feel vulnerable, we tend to feel exposed, and we tend to have our stress reactions kick in. So again, we were talking about a couple different kinds. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Okay. Fight is the one where we're going to get a little bit aggressive. Flight, we're just going to try to get out of there. Freeze, mental block or just seizing up. And fawn is sort of the accommodating, oh my God, is everything okay? What did they think of me? Blah, blah, blah. And these again can be expressed mentally or physically. So our symptoms can come out as a combination of all of these things. Yay, we're complex beings. But they tend to be more mental or more physical, and we tend to have a base fear reaction that is stronger than the others. So then we have guest culture versus ask culture, where we kind of sit and where we come from in terms of what is the norm for us, whether we expect people to anticipate our needs, so we're going to be a little bit indirect about it, or if we're coming from an ask culture, which is very direct, and we're just going to express our needs and say, hey, can you help me with this? Both are fine, they're just very different. Okay, then we talked about attachment styles. Anxious is a little bit clingy, when we're in our not self, right? So it's going to be the thing that's like following up, lots of text messages, lots of calls. Then avoidant, when we're our not selves, is going to ghost, disengage, maybe just not give a lot of information and step away and just kind of completely disengage with the thing. Secure, which is a balance of whatever our natural composition is, but we know sort of how to show up and how to manage complicated emotions and big emotions and all of that. And then disorganized, the compass is just turning. We don't know whether we're going to get secure, anxious, or avoidant, and it usually comes out of a trauma-based environment. Okay, then what can we do about it? Well, good news. Practice makes pathways. So in the brain, we have all of our little neurons that are going around making connections. And it's kind of like our brain is very efficient. So it just wants to play the same song over again, over and over. It's a song that we know really well. We don't even have to think about it. We can just sing it, put it on, forget it, set it and forget it. However, this means that we are used to repeating the same old patterns, right? And we can see this in our personal behavior. We can also see it in music practice. We can see it in pretty much every different area of our lives. The thing that's fantastic about neuroplasticity and neurobiology is that we actually can influence our system so that we can train a new normal and we can find a new natural. So what this means is that instead of everybody just going on their little path that they usually do, and you have this sort of super highway that's myelinated with this white substance that wraps around these neural pathways, whatever, we're gonna say, hey, road closed. Imagine you have like a road closed team and somebody hands you a thing to go bushwhacking off a different path. It takes effort. It takes effort to find a new path. However, it might be the thing you want to do so that you know how to self-regulate and you know how to show up as your true authentic self in the world. I suggest that it's a pretty good place to start. So practice makes pathways just means that we can influence the pathways in our brain. The super highways can then die off as we make other roads stronger and stronger and stronger, and they become the super highway. So we can change the song. Okay. And, we talk a lot about, in Spark practice, we talk a lot about comfort versus health. It's very comfortable and it's very efficient to just keep playing the same song. This could be, playing an F sharp too low. It could be always gravitating towards toxic relationships. It's kind of a big subject, right? But if we're playing the same song, it just means that we haven't gotten that road close sign up to then make another choice and make a new pathway and develop a new relationship to whatever it is. Okay. So you'll see on the slideshow, the next slide is just try it. So I invite you to experiment with some of this. Not all of it is going to be easy. Again, as I said, when you're bushwhacking and creating a new path in the forest, it takes a lot of energy. Okay. When you start to do that and you see the benefits of that and you see how your life is better, it's hard to go back to the other path, but it is really tiring and we can't be perfect all the time. We can't do everything perfectly all the time. This is normal. So we need to have that grace of saying, okay, I understand that I'm trying something difficult and new. I'm just going to try what I can try. Okay. I know my personal stress profile. I have these tools to put in place. I'm going to try it. Let's just see what I can do today in this tiny next little moment. This is part of the next little steps. And, in Spark Practice, we teach that motivation is just two things. It's the courage to keep coming back even after failure, perceived failure, and a tiny little stream of next steps, ideally ones that are easy to say yes to. Okay, that's all motivation is. It's not more complicated than that. It's not a mystery. We just have to try it and have the courage to keep coming back. Okay, so now we get into the fun questions of Spark Practice and nervous system neutral. The first one is, what's my most important relationship? So think about it to yourself, or if you have a note paper, what is the most important relationship in your life? As a musician, as a person, as a CEO, as whatever you are, in your family, what's your most important relationship? And go ahead and type in the chats, the various chats, if you can, a couple different suggestions. All right, so what's my most important relationship in my life? Go ahead and type it into the chat in the comments. Okay, so I'm seeing family, I'm seeing my girlfriend, my work, my teacher, musician probably. Okay, trick question, your most important relationship is with yourself. If you want to be in an authentic relationship with anybody else, your most important relationship is really with yourself. That's where everything else starts. Okay, so when we're talking about our personal fear profile and stress profile and self-regulation is something that we tend to outsource. We can outsource it to other people. We can outsource it to vices. We can outsource it to numbing. We can outsource it to alcohol and drugs. We can outsource it to friends, but also we have the power to take that back and cultivate that really strong relationship with ourselves. Okay, so the next step of that is, how do I want to feel? Now, this is a really important question because it's not, what do you want your life to look like? What do you want XYZ to be? It's, how do you want to feel in it? Okay, and this is something you can put it in chats if you want. It's something that we tend to sit with a little bit. And mine usually is, I want to feel confident and safe and relaxed. I want to feel like I can be creative, and I want to just be resonant in my authenticity. Okay. Took a long time to get there. So don't worry. It's fine. There are ways. Yeah. Okay. So I want to be me. Absolutely. Yeah. And what that means is you want to feel safe and confident to be you, right? Very cool. So, for example, like, I don't do New Year's resolutions anymore. I do intentions, and my intentions are how I want to feel that year. And what that also means is that what comes in to me and to my life is even more exciting and different than I thought it could be. Okay, so let's talk briefly about the mindsets. I teach 3 different mindsets. You might know fixed versus growth. So fixed is going to be like, oh my gosh, I can never be that good. That person's so talented. I'll never be like that. Or I hate math. Growth is more, oh, that's an area I don't really know yet, or I'm not very experienced there. I'm going to go study it and become, better at it. This idea of being able to learn. And learning, as we know, is just the process of being really crap at something to being less bad at it. So we need to enjoy being terrible at stuff so that we can actually learn how to get better at it, right? Okay, so that's fixed versus growth. The second one is lack versus abundance. An easy way to talk about this is money. Lack is going to be, oh my gosh, I never have enough. How am I going to pay rent? How am I going to provide for myself and my priorities and the people that are important to me, blah, blah, blah. Abundance is I always have whatever I need. I know that I'll have whatever I need in my life. Okay. The third mindset is fear versus courage or love. So fear, every decision that we make is either going to be based in fear or based in love or courage, right? So for example, tonight, this is very important to me. I really want to share this information with you, and I really want you to feel empowered to start this conversation with yourself. Okay. But it's a scary thing for me. The fear-based version would be, you know what, it's okay, nobody cares. Probably nobody's going to come. It's not going to be a big deal, whatever. And all of my fear reactions are kicking in, right? But the way that I could be courageous and express love was to show up and to share this information and to put this out into the world. Okay, so there is a secret ingredient, and the secret ingredient is intention. So just like we were talking about the little neurons in our brain earlier, if we let our bodies and our minds just play the same songs and be really efficient and all of that and just keep going, then that's wonderful. But we're not going to be able to make that sort of progress and have those relationships that we're really looking to build, especially that most important relationship with ourselves, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to start to think about having an intention that goes with our actions. And by doing that, the neurons have an easier chance of finding each other. This is true in music practice. This is true in any activity that we're working on. If we have intention in our actions, they're going to connect more easily with what we're looking to do and who we're looking to become. All right, so the next slide in the slideshow, if you're on Zoom, joining us on Zoom, is you are the action hero. So I'm going to hit all the screens. You are the action hero, and you are the action hero, and you are the action hero. And so what that means is that we have our personal stress profile. We know some of the stuff about what happens in the brain, right? We've talked about a lot of these different things. We know that the most important relationship in our lives is really with ourselves. And that's where everything else is going to resonate. Okay. And now it's our turn to put a couple strategies into action. So what we're going to talk about tonight, the first one is 4-6 breathing. Now, I like 4-6 breathing because it's really simple to remember and everything keeps flowing and we're not blocking respiration at any point. And for a lot of times, like actors and musicians especially, we tend to forget to breathe. So I like 4-6 breathing. So we're just keeping everything moving. 4-6 breathing is really simple. It's 4 counts in and 6 breaths out, or 6 counts out. We're stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system by doing this. Anytime we breathe out longer than we breathe in, we're reminding ourselves on a really fundamental level, we can talk about vagal theory, all of that, that I am safe. I can come back to nervous system security. It's going to be all right. All right, so let's do it together. In for 4. And out for 6. Go ahead and keep doing that. In for 4. And out for 6. Just remind ourselves, I'm safe. And now we can add an intention like we were talking about. In for 4, I want to cultivate a positive relationship with myself. And out for 6, I'm safe. And I have a positive relationship with myself. Okay, so this is one of the things that is going to help us build that base nervous system security. It is also something that you can do if you're in a time of sort of crisis. Pull it out. 4-6 breathing, super easy. 6 breaths is 1 minute. It doesn't take a lot of time to help take the edge off and come back to yourself. Okay, so this is something if you are running into a meeting, if you are at an audition, if before a date, all of that stuff. 4-6 breathing is something that's really helpful, and it's something that we can practice all the time, in the car, in public transportation, in the grocery store line, and as we start to practice these things, it's like we were talking about, practice makes pathways. Instead of just playing the same song, we're saying road closed, I'm going to go this direction, and we're building that road off into the woods so that when we need it, it's a super highway. Okay, the second big thing that we're going to talk about tonight is, how's my little plant? All right, so this is a really easy way to start that conversation with yourself. And this is going to be the kind of thing where we're just going to close our eyes for a minute. So go ahead and close your eyes. And imagine at the very inside of yourself, a little plant. It could be a tree, it could be a flower, it could be whatever, okay? Just imagine a little plant at the very inside of yourself. And you're just gonna ask it, hey buddy, how's it going? What do you need? Okay? You're gonna ask your little plant, how's it going? What do you need? Usually it's water and sleep, okay, and maybe some sunlight, right? But go ahead and come back to the room, and in the chat, put in what your little plant is, if you feel comfortable doing that, or if it's a flower, if it's a specific type of plant or whatever. And this is such a great tool, because what we actually just did is we just meditated. So it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. It's something that we can come back to all the time. And getting in touch with our little plant, like, even if it's something that you're looking to do more often, you can start to cultivate that relationship with yourself, and just put a reminder in your phone that you want to check in, and just close your eyes and ask how your little plant is doing. Okay, so here are just a couple things that we're going to talk about really quickly about, from your personal stress profile. We're not going to talk about all of them tonight, but that's fine, because there's a whole class coming up. But if you're experiencing more mental symptoms for stress and fear, here are two really simple things. Hold on to the walls. What I mean by that, especially for mental symptoms, is that we have a couple things that are just true. Okay, so we can know and intellectually reassure ourselves, especially when it's spinning out, that I am safe and I want to be here. Okay, I am safe and I want to be here. Now, the best way to help put that into context is to get back into our bodies, right? So one of the best ways to do that, like we were talking about, is 4-6 breathing, which means that your intention is to hold on to the walls. I am safe and I want to be here. As you're doing 4-6 breathing, 4 counts in, 6 counts out, okay? If you're experiencing more body-based symptoms, we need to ground the energy. So if you have like shaky legs, or you feel tight in your chest, or all of that, we're going to really ground out that energy, which means that we're going to feel the ground. And then once we feel connected with the ground, we're going to do what's called energy dialysis. And it just means that you're going to take the energy up from the ground, circulate it through your body, give it a path, and then send it back down to the ground. Then you can move into 4-6 breathing. Then you can move into other strategies that suit your personal profile. These strategies, the plant, the 4-6 breathing, grounding your energy dialysis, holding onto the walls, and getting back in your body, these are part of your personal stress antidote. Okay, so that's something that you're going to be developing over time. And especially if we spend more time together, you're going to have a complete way of dealing with that stress. Okay, so yes, your complete and unique stress antidote. This is just tools to help you recenter yourself and come back to nervous system neutral, especially if you are dysregulated and you have all of these other stuff going on. Now that you know your personal stress profile, you're able to have your personal stress antidote to be able to come back to nervous system neutral. Okay, so again, we have our stress reactions, we have our guest culture versus ask culture, our attachment styles, and all of this is just information and signals again that lead us into understanding a little bit better about how we tend to engage with the world. And that way we can learn really what our personal stress profiles are and our personal stress antidotes. So if you're interested in more strategies and learning more about the brain, learning more about really what happens in the body and what stress is and how we can manage it, and practice over several weeks coming back to nervous system neutral, we have a class that's starting in a couple weeks called Nervous System Neutral, and you can sign up on the website. And we're going to be covering a couple different things. We're going to be covering in more depth the brain and neuroplasticity, self-regulation basics, what the possibilities are, why it's important. You already have your personal stress profile, so now we're going to have your personal stress antidote, as well as a toolkit for emergencies when you're in peak stress situations. And then also we're going to have a whole module about self-regulation in relationships, because it's really nice to be able to come back to nervous system neutral by yourself, but it's even more important to be able to do it in the context of relationships. Cool. Well, I thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been super fun. Thank you for everybody who interacted and everybody who showed up on, we're streaming on 2 different Instagram accounts and on Zoom. So it's been a lot to kind of keep track of, but I'm learning. And yeah, I really hope that this is something that you see how it can benefit you and how it can help bring a sort of calm and sort of vitality that's really, really centered. And from there, then you can start to develop your radiant authenticity. So thank you so much. Please check out the course. I'll be sending the replay with a little bit of information in the slides for everybody who did the stress profile on the website. And yeah, feel free to post hashtag nervous system neutral and hashtag self-regulation is sexy. And we'll see you really soon. Bye. Hi. Stop share. Stop recording.